going to do the right thing, announce the title, The Metaverse, Capturing Virtual Expansion. But I'm going to let Nicole take over and make a full buyer introduction. So I always botch that up. I shouldn't say that all the time, but Nicole, if you would do the introductions for us, please.
Of course. So Evelina is the founding member of Untamed, a women Web3 community. She also leads the marketing efforts for the Meta Content Partnerships team across Asia Pacific. Her team works with the largest creators, media, and news outlets across Instagram and Facebook to ensure Meta's top content partners are engaging with their communities and reaching their audiences around the world on Meta's platforms every day. Megan is the CEO and founder of Crypto Megan. She is a high-end crypto and NFT portfolio consultant for large companies, investors, and celebrities, and also an investor and a member of Bored Ape Yacht Club, Doodles, and Worlds of Women, among many other NFTs. And Warren Woon. He co-founded Xctuality, I hope I said that right, and in October 2022, launched Xctuality, becoming Singapore's first B2B2C metaverse platform. Beyond this is Warren's vision of building a tech ecosystem to empower lifestyles and smart cities. He spent his career predominantly running his own investment management advisory, but his futuristic ideation, passion for business development, and keen interest in the 0 to 1 nature of tech startups led him to where he is today. So welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you so much. So can I count on Evie to run this and tell us, set the stage, tell us what we're going to cover and what the takeaways are going to be. I've had a podcast with Megan. Obviously, Evie, we know each other going back some time, and you brought Warren to this, and we had a conversation the other day, so we're all family and friends here. But I'll let you set the stage of where we're going to go, broad picture, vertical. As an investor, what should I be looking at, what I should be concerned about, and is the metaverse real, or still not so real?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Sure. So I think, look, I do actually think it's important that we kick off with what we collectively on this panel believe the metaverse to be, because there are a number of definitions flying around, and so I think we'll start with that. We were briefed by Kareem to very much focus on the practical applications of the metaverse. So, really bring it down to what is it that we can expect? And I think the important question, from particularly following on from the previous panel, it's been a bumpy ride in our industry, right? It's a network effect. Crypto is not in isolation of Web3 and blockchain technology. So confidence really has taken a bit of a hit. People are questioning unfortunately, the technology and the power of the technology and the opportunities that it brings. So I think it would be important to also focus on where we believe we need to go to next as an industry to thrive. So I think that's, Kareem, the brief. So I think we should just dive in. Warren, what is your definition of the metaverse, and how would you explain it to someone, just first off?
So very simply put, the metaverse really is just a tool, a visualized layer of a futuristic website, if you may. So just like a web page is something that you can see, there are a lot of parts to the web page that most people don't see. The integrations that happen, the payment gateways, the coding that goes into it. But what the user sees is just, that page. So same thing with the metaverse. It's that layer, the visualized layer, that aesthetic layer that most people find appealing. So to me, that's the metaverse, to put it simply.
Great. And Megan, what would be your 2-line definition?
Yeah, but before I give that, I just wanted to say, Warren, I think your comment was interesting. You know, the user, the end user, unlike people in Web3 natively here now, they're not going to care about how it's put together or what it is, just the final end result and using that result. So I think that's a good point. I would define it as a few things: a seamless bridge between the physical and the digital world. So we can kind of like, some would argue we're already in the metaverse, and we have been for quite some time. When you Google somebody, you get an impression of them online. And this would be building upon that application layer to make that experience even better by use of VR and augmented reality. So yeah, I would say the seamless bridge between the two is the most practical use case. And then today I was at a panel in New York at Benzinga, and the founder of Bored Ape Yacht Club was there, and they were discussing their version of the metaverse, which is more like a Ready Player One. People getting together, having a good time, playing to earn, things like that. And so those would be the two different versions I would see. But the common thing between the two is the social connection.
Absolutely. And then I mean, I would like to add as well, like, so I think it's this real feeling of immersion and presence, right? So, you know, very much we interact and look at our internet today, like we're looking at each other now on this Zoom. But again, the metaverse holds this vast opportunity where we will be potentially in, you know, feeling a body sensation within the actual virtual environment. So let's just touch on, and I think, you know, Kareem kind of led us into that. Megan, your point, right, which is, does the metaverse currently exist now? Are we there yet? Or is it in a far off future that, you know, particularly from an investment side, doesn't make sense?
So an investment side, as far as purchasing digital assets or digital land, or investing in possibly a spot in the metaverse, I mean, there are many different definitions of how you could invest in the metaverse. So we can get back to that point. But as far as like a real functioning, developing proper metaverse, I think we're quite a ways away from that. But, you know, Bill Gates was saying that we were going to be having meetings within the metaverse within 3 years. And I don't think that's off, because we already are having the Zooms. And I think you made an incredible point about the kind of like depth perception and really perceiving that you're somewhere. I mean, when you actually do these proper VR immersions, you have sensors on your hands and legs and feet. It feels like you're deep within this dimension that you can't even perceive that you're in a square little box. It's actually really, really cool. And I think until people actually experience it, they really not going to understand fully what the potential is.
Absolutely. And Warren, what would your take on that be? Do you believe that we are in you know, close, or do you think it's still far off?
I think to some, you know, early movers like Xctuality, the metaverse is already here. So with Singapore's National Day Parade, which is our Independence Day celebration this past August, we built a metaverse environment with gamification for, you know, the younger demographic to come, you know, participate, play games, and earn tokens. And these are off-chain; they're not on the chain. So they earn tokens. But what we did was we integrated, if I should say, our metaverse actual life with a smart vending ecosystem. So the coins or the tokens that they earn in the games can be redeemed via the you know, the virtual vending machines in our metaverse, and then collect the actual physical merchandise at the actual physical machine on site, right? So that is, to us, is already happening. And we also launched Meta Farms, which is the world's first digital farms in Philippines. And we're doing this to connect, you know, real life physical farms and the farmers to the metaverse with gamification that, you know, gamers can come in and play games just like Farmville, but the game mechanics and the tokenomics are tied together with the farm. So rather than wait, we're trying to make it happen. And, you know, we're actively ideating with our clients to create commercial viability like now. So to us, it is here.
And I love that example, because again, it's like this incredible practical use case where you're using, and you know, I come particularly from you know, my interest in the metaverse is actually more on like consumer behaviors. And I feel like, so we're building this metaverse at the moment with the present consumer behaviors in mind, right? But what is the output of that? And my question would be, and I feel like you're kind of touching on it with the meta farms, is what new behaviors will our experience of the metaverse create? And I think the gamification part is something that I've been toying with for a while, which is, you know, as human beings, we do have this inherent need for immediate gratification, right? We want something now, but with the ability for this gamified virtual environment, you know, the idea is that sustained long-term and delayed gratification is equally as rewarding, if not, you know, adds to the excitement of the journey that we're in. So are you seeing other types of behaviors in kind of some of the consulting that you're doing, Megan, or Warren, the building that you're doing?
Well, as far as what I've been looking to is kind of the future of different industries. And I love the thing you're talking about, gamification and unlocking different layers and experiences. For example, I'm consulting for many different industries. And one of those is the iGaming sector and online gambling casinos. So for example, I've been talking some to Planet Hollywood Group, and I just did a conference where we were discussing loyalty. You know, because typically iGaming conferences or iGaming brands, they're throwing money at their customers, trying to get them to stay. But what if you could give them exclusive experiences, badges, and VIP status in your metaverse that they could unlock, you know, private high limit tables or experiences, but have it open in a sense that people could be around watching, just not necessarily have access to those different layers. And then the second layer of that could be like a wearable that you have that has the badge that shows what tier gambler you are, you know, what rank you've reached. So there's so many cool use cases for brands to gain more visibility and provide more value to their users to get them to stay, right?
Yeah, I think the customer aspect and like the loyalty aspect, and I think, you know, Nike seem to be just doing incredible things in terms of just not only advocating for kind of the younger generation to kind of come on board, but also just kind of like like you said, the loyalty sustained, keeping them in. I mean, Warren, what do you foresee in terms of like the main benefits of the metaverse?
So I think Megan hit a few points, and I think one very important word, a very simple word, is layer. So what we're building here is using Metaverse as a layer, and we're repurposing some existing technology and some upcoming technologies just so that things can be almost immediately implemented. So to the point of doing customer loyalty, yeah. So to us, the most common, the most basic denominator is the mobile phone, right? So most of us have mobile phones, and we use it all the time, and we have all sorts of stuff in there. So something like an NFT could be held in an app in the mobile phone in your crypto wallet, and this could serve as a form of loyalty. But we also have, especially in casinos, CCTVs everywhere, right? And you have like Vegas, when you go to Vegas, CCTV is literally just everywhere. So you can use actually computer visioning via the CCTV to track footfalls. You don't have to track the face, but you can track body dimensions, what you're wearing, and stuff like that, and overlay other data sets on there, like your transactional layer, right? And from there, you're able to then start analyzing historical data on movements and spending, and also then start doing trajectory analysis, and then you can start adding that loyalty layer on top of that. So that is actually what we're building in terms of where we see the smart city vision going. Yeah. And we're using the metaverse to build that, because the
That's super
metaverse serves
cool.
as a layer for us to visualize what's happening, in real time.
That's
Incredible.
amazing.
It is incredible. You know, all too often, I think, you know, we focus, the metaverse is in the context of kind of this social entertainment, right? That's often how all games, right? There are some incredible other utility cases of the metaverse that are being discovered. And I wondered if we could touch on those as well, because I think, you know, again, the metaverse is all encompassing for all industries. I don't know if any of you have a point of view on that.
Yeah, I really like that as like that's kind of what I'm focused on as well in consulting for clients and in my own strategies. Like brands having headquarters within there and being able to provide experiences for their fans that can join from anywhere in the world. Also, like medical use, doing surgery actually from the metaverse and being able to conduct those kind of like high-end microscopic procedures. I mean, there's so many use cases, but for example, I have a space near Bored Ape Yacht Club where all the Bored Apes are, and we're providing a service for them in an office near there where you can get the foot traffic of the area essentially to be able to come to your office. I mean, this sounds really far off, but I think providing that experience and being able to connect there in that place for that service without having to be there physically is amazing. So, and Paris Hilton, by the way, just to interject, is that she said that it was one of the most fun parties she's ever thrown has been in the metaverse in her life, because it's in the metaverse handbook. My dad read it. So, if it made it to him, then it's a good sign that mass adoption is around the corner, right? But yeah, just this incredible form of connecting with customers and with clients, I feel.
Yeah, actually, I did read, I think they are starting to use at least, some of the AR and VR technology in medical cases. And I think there's an incredible case study on spinal surgery where the doctors itself are using AR and VR in the ability to locate certain problems within the spine. So it really is. I think the point here to hammer home is it is far beyond just the entertainment, social, that are massively leaning in, but the use cases are far and wide. Warren, are you familiar with any others that you would like to share?
Yeah, I mean, really, in order for us to start figuring out the potentialities, just to get our feet wet. So, which was really the reason why we're so adamant about launching our metaverse product first. But all the other technologies like VR, AR, MR, they really need to be connected to the metaverse to make it a lot more interesting and viable. So I think majority of the population are still pretty much Web 2, which is why we want to make a lot of things relevant to them. But it's the same pain point that a lot of our clients are facing. How can they get their existing customer base to come into Web3 vis-a-vis, metaverse, right? So, before the age of online payment gateways and the app, things were very manual, very yellow page, right? But the entire customer journey in the retail sense, for example, completely changed with the advent of e-commerce. So I think this is something similar that's happening now with the metaverse. So we're literally helping a lot of our early adopting clients ideate, the potential, changes and the long-term road mapping that they would need to do to incorporate the metaverse and Web3. So without saying too much, we're really helping, companies like the hospitals, healthcare groups, insurance companies, sports and entertainment groups to rethink how the entire user journey is going to be like, not just from the consumer perspective, but also the internal stakeholders, the employees, right? So something I can reveal is that we recently did something with a bank. If an entity like a bank is thinking about the metaverse and Web3, I think the rest of us should really start thinking about it too. But they're thinking about it not so much from the transactional point of view, but rather how can they benefit employees. So with gamification as a topic, we can possibly use gamification to do things like psychometrics, right? And that relates to learning and development and HR. So yeah, that's what we're doing.
Yeah, we're on tenterhooks to learn what you will soon be revealing. I think, the use cases are far more. I've been reading a lot around vocational training, and there are certain vocations where being there in real life and being able to walk around is so important to just the understanding and gaining that information how to do something. And they've compared that to kind of these virtual environments environment, metaverse vocational training. And apparently through that, people are learning much, much faster. And I think there were case studies of like Air Force One pilots, you know, learning how to fly their planes, their jet planes in the metaverse and in virtual reality. Something that I've come across that I don't know if either of you know too much about, and I was just reading, is something that is being termed enterprise metaverse, which I think is quite fascinating. And it's about kind of how the metaverse can be useful to large scale industries and supply chains. Right. So a huge factory, for example, through digital twins, and a digital twin, for the audience that might not be familiar with that terminology, is the exact replica of a potential physical environment or physical object or physical person in digital format. And it uses data through AI and the Internet of Things to inform the digital twin in real time. That's kind of my best definition of a digital twin. Anyway, these large-scale factories and enterprises are now using digital twins in the metaverse to optimize efficiencies, right? So they can look at their entire supply chain through their digital twin in the metaverse and figure out and help predict what may occur in the real environment, in our physical real life environment in the metaverse, which I find really, really interesting. Do any of you, have any of you heard more about that, or would you like to add anything to that? Because I just thought that was such a, again, useful, practical case of where the metaverse can be beyond just entertainment, which is being talked about today.
Yeah, I don't know about the actual, and I mean, it makes total sense to me, and that level of precision and accuracy that they can get from having that kind of order and being able to visualize things in that way. I think that's really cool. And as far as replicas, what you were saying, one thing that came to mind is a real world case for real estate. You know, a lot of where I live in Marbella, Spain, a lot of realtors are showing these houses on their phones, walking around, talking about it, like letting them know what the house looks like. Imagine if now these mega mansions on the beach, they're being replicated, put a digital twin of the house in the metaverse so that people can visit it from anywhere in the world exactly how it would be where it is. Imagine, you know, you're cutting out a lot of headache and troubles by having it that way. And not only that, but the more eyes that are on an asset, the more it can appreciate. Right. So I think that is an interesting use case for a digital twin as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like there's going to be digital twins of everything, right? I mean, at least that's certainly what I've been seeing. Warren, is there anything else you'd like to add to that?
Yeah. So, you know, Singapore, as some of you may know, we're constructing Terminal 5, right? And they're already experimenting what you were talking about, the enterprise layer of the metaverse or mixed reality or digital twin, if you want to call it. So that, for example, a supervisor who is on leave or a manager who's on leave, but something happened at a specific gate and no one can troubleshoot it except for this guy. So this person, this supervisor or manager is able to put on his HoloLens, for example, and be able to log in on site virtually, right? And see the actual traffic flow of the customers, what is causing this huge problem at the gate. So he's then able to advise in real time to troubleshoot this situation, even though he's not on site, right? So that's already that's a technology that's already to be implemented at the Singapore airport. And other applications that you touched on, the digital twin, as mentioned before, our smart city vision, we're building towards it. So one of the things that we're looking to develop is a fully automated hotel. So in order to fully automate everything is to connect Internet of Things, which was the a use case we did with the smart vending machine because that is an IoT. So we and now we're going to be, you know, putting other stuff together to make it complete, right? So that when you check into a hotel, no one is around, right? Sometimes you just come really late. You just want to get into a room. You book as you go, just like a co-working space, you know. So it eliminates a lot of manpower resources and other unnecessary wastage, in a hotel setting. And I think with the low to mid tier type hotels, these are like long-term pain points that a lot of existing tech solutions cannot solve.
Mm. I love that. And actually, I didn't know about Terminal 5 because I knew about Hong Kong, and Hong Kong has done a similar thing where they created their airport, one of the terminals in their airport in the metaverse through a digital twin, and have been able to optimize flow, etc. I didn't know about Singapore. So that's so yeah, I think the point here is that there are beyond these use cases that aren't necessarily being talked about, at least through media headlines. Look, there's a lot for us to the journey ahead is long. So I kind of want to talk about what is it that needs to happen for us to get to this vision, or for a fully realized metaverse. Will we ever get to a fully realized metaverse, or will it just keep on evolving into different things? So Megan, do you have a point of view on that?
Yeah, kind of what we discussed today. It's similar, how do you onboard the next billion users in crypto? What is it going to take? Well, we're going to need to work on the infrastructure and the UX so that the actual user experience is much more seamless, so that they're not even understanding what kind of technology it is they're using. They're just able to experience the end result, and build blockchains that scale as well. That's also an underlying issue. We have to be ready for this mass amount of people to come pouring in, and just allow them to navigate seamlessly. And the last point we're going to have to really work on is the interoperability, so that people can go from metaverse to metaverse with their avatar seamlessly, and be able to have that. So I think we're pretty far off from that fully functioning in that aspect. But like I said in the beginning, we're already in the metaverse. This is just building on top of that layer. So I think that it's only going to get better and better and better as we go. And the last point that I think is interesting is maybe it should be device agnostic. So although it wouldn't be the full AR VR version, people can use their phones. Ease of use, just ease of interface is what I think we need to try to accomplish.
Yeah, it's still, there's still a ton of friction, right? And therefore, until it is friction free, it's unlikely that we're going to see this mass adoption. Warren, what are your thoughts on that? A fully realized metaverse, what needs to happen?
Yeah, totally. I mean, there are probably devices that we haven't even thought about yet, right? Like the AR contact lenses by Mojo Vision is coming out. So I'm really curious to see what major impact is going to create with such a medium of such a small, tiny little thing as a medium of consumption. To us, we just assume that in the future, almost everything is going to be in IoT. And because of that, a lot of our experiences will change. Like we already have Tesla cars and other EVs that are autonomous vehicles already. So, your current role as a driver changes, and we've already seen cockpit designs changing, like dramatically in the last 5 years. So, you may end up being a passenger 80% of the time, just 20% of the time just end up driving, right? So, how is that gonna change your experience inside a cockpit? Will the windshields and windows become AR layers? And if that's the case, then how will information of the outside world be represented, and what can you do with it? So these are things that we're assuming, and just like what Megan said, it has to be device agnostic. But at the end of the day, to look at mass adoption, it has to be as simple as just a single action, just tapping on something and you're in. Right. So with the internet, a lot of things happen, like just messaging, like going on Tinder, for example, just swiping, just the one action, right? Easy to consume. So that's what we're moving towards, and that's what we have to assume.
Right.
Yeah, and I wanted to add on that, just like the way that we envision our lives in general. I don't have kids yet, but I'm planning on having them soon. And we travel so much. I asked JP Morgan not too long ago, what was their vision? Because I met the head of mortgages. Like, how are you structuring different mortgage packages to account for like how life is going to change in the next 10 years? And where I'm going with this is there's so many more digital nomads now, people who are traveling around a lot more because we're working virtually. And so I believe our kids will be going to school in the metaverse, getting an even better education that way. Like you said, pilots are getting their pilot licenses through training sessions in the metaverse. It makes sense. I even learned some soccer moves through video games. So imagine what we could do in real AR, VR. I think people just need to start opening their minds to how can this benefit and augment or, evolve the life we have now and make it even better. So.
And I was going to add, I don't know if either of you are familiar with Gartner, which is a research company. They produce this hype cycle, right? It's not specific to the metaverse, but it's specific to it's a trend line for new emerging technologies, right? And I think it starts with the innovation trigger, right? So the trend line starts with the innovation trigger, a new emerging technology is released to the market, right? And over time, there's an inflated expectations of what this new emerging technology can deliver, which I might argue was potentially 2021, with the NFTs going crazy, et cetera. Now, if you look at a cycle, if we trust the Gartner cycle, the next point is this trough of disillusionment, right, where everything crashes, the entire, technology, that there's lack of confidence, people don't trust the technology, right? And I feel like this year, and particularly what's happened in the last month, because of the network effect, right, there's been this disbelief, this technology won't last. And there are massive questions. And then again, into the future, we look at the next point on the trend line, which is the slope of enlightenment, where excitement picks up. There are real practical use cases of the technology prevalent in society. And then finally it hits kind of the mass adoption. Right. So again, it's the Gartner hype cycle. It's not mine. You can look it up online if you're interested. Would you guys believe in that cycle line? Do you think that is a true perception of where we are and what we can expect?
I think it's really pretty accurate description. I also think it's just like going along with, well, I like what you said about first you have to have the massive crash after the expectations are exceeded, and a speculation, not just expectations. And then you have that lull where the innovation really happens and the things are really be built. And I feel we're in that kind of phase right now. So I completely agree with you.
Warren?
Yeah, so totally agree. I think if you're talking about back to the question earlier, is it a good time to invest and whatnot? I think this is probably the best time to come into the industry before the crowd actually comes in. So yeah, I totally agree with it.
I think we may be out of time because Kareem's popped his head back. So Kareem, I'll let you ask any questions that you'd like. So I'll hand back to you.
First of all, I would like to thank you all, Evie and Megan and Warren. It's been a fascinating conversation. We had Carrie Lee Miller and Red Power and Corey Hyman here before, and we were talking about the future of work in the metaverse. And I sort of like gave them a little bit of a hard time, and I hope they're here still. I see Red and Carrie still here, but Corey had to leave. But I appreciate the enterprise network, enterprise meta that we're talking about in enterprise. No, Carrie, join us. Carrie's. So I know you and Evie know each other, but yeah, I don't know if you know Warren and Megan. But it's good that you all connect because you're all doing fascinating work in Meta. And what I was really impressed by was what Warren's doing with Meta Farms, and then what Megan's, even though she lives in this beautiful mansion in Malaga, Spain, that overlooks the water, that has a digital twin, even though she's there, she's very well informed about what the hell's going on everywhere.
Well, the mansion I was talking about wasn't mine, but it's a real world use case for where we're living, and that's how they're showing it. They're trying to work on the technology. So I think it's very cool.
Yeah, no, that's exactly the point which there are particular cases that actually make total sense when we're talking about the hospitals, the education. Let's separate where the hype is, where that may be with the fashion and the influencers. that's driving that, but that's okay because that's driving the technology and iterating on the technology that the use cases now deliver in other various enterprises. So, some of the poll questions we had there was sort of a polarization of responses because I think there is a little bit of a confusion. And Evie, thank you for setting the stage right in the beginning. What is your definition, or what is your understanding of the meta, and what are the particular and practical use cases that we can see? And as long as we can identify that and work towards a path where we can see actual use cases that will be transformative or additive, like you mentioned, we are in the metaverse already. It's an additive layer that makes it more engaging in a certain manner and more fruitful and productive in others. So I appreciate the overall picture that you've created today at this session. Carrie, if you want to add a couple of words, and then we'll tune off.
No, I mean, look, I think we're all on the same page, and I loved it, Evelyn, that you started off in that way, because in our panel, that's exactly how we started off, is having us define it, because the complexities on trying to make it all encompassing into one definition is impossible, because the reality is it intertwines in every aspect of our lives and our work, and it's coming. And I love kind of, Warren, you saying it, now's a great time to get in, because there is a dip, and that correction and hype needed to be tempered. So now is the perfect time for everyone who's listening who was not aware. You probably heard about things, but now's the perfect time to see what aspects of Web3 and the metaverse relate to you, because every industry is figuring it out right now. So you just being here and hearing it is part of the ride. So thanks for letting me add my 2 cents.
Thank you. I'd like to thank you all. If you have any final thoughts, you can share that now. Otherwise, we'll call it a day, night, evening.
Yeah, there's a question, I think, from Edward Brooks. I'm not too sure when this was put up.
It was posted at the very last moment, so you can address that if you'd like.
Okay. So I think the question is, any opinions on longevity of NFTs beyond ERC20? That is whether, XLS20, Solana, so on and so forth, will last. Also, whether the current gaming crypto leaders will prevail, such as Ape, Sand, Mana, so on and so forth. Megan, you have any answer to that?
I mean, there were a lot of questions bundled in one there, but I can speak to the ones that I know, for example, which is Bored Ape Yacht Club. Like I said, I'm here at an event by Benzinga, also this earlier today, where the founder of Bored Ape Yacht Club spoke, and their vision of the project is just ever evolving, and the community is so strong and so big, and the IP that they're using extends so far that it's like you said, with every wave comes some more new innovation, and they're launching something new for their metaverse, the other side, in December now. And I think it's like what you said, Evelina, that it just keeps evolving. Like, when will the total finished metaverse be there? I see longevity for Bored Ape Yacht Club for sure, because of how strong the community is and how far it's expanded beyond itself. So I think there will be, but that being said, I think there are going to be a lot of top NFTs that haven't even emerged yet, that aren't even out there yet.
Yeah.
Yep. So for us, we're looking at NFT as a source of provenance, as identification, not something that is currently mostly PFPs or profile pictures. And also, we're providing utility to existing NFT projects by giving them a space, which is the metaverse, for their NFT holders to interact, to transact, to do other stuff with one another, peer to peer, right? So that's what we're providing to current NFT projects. With regards to, I think the second question in terms of crypto leaders, I think Web3 in the metaverse is not just about crypto. I think these are all necessary, but I think personally there's still a lot of consolidation that is still going to happen. But if you look at some of these major exchanges, we're already trying to figure out who actually follows compliance, who actually has solid security rules in place, like and also to prevent all these leakages of funds, right? So we're gonna start seeing the consolidation in that area as well. I think for us, we're very, very careful since day one not to dive straight into tokens, on-chain tokens right away, because it was just so much hype, there's so much traffic, so much noise, that if we were to do something, we'd just get lost in the crowd. And thankfully, we didn't. Um, but that's not to say that we won't entertain crypto. So for us, I think we want to just be agnostic to everything. Eventually, like just like any economy in the world, our metaverse will have its own economics and utility. So I think with a token would help, right? But definitely, keep a lookout for what we're going to be doing in the NFT space because it's going to help with the democratization of Web3 in general. Yeah.
So thank you. So one last question for all of you, if you have an opinion. If not, if it's similar, it's okay. I know a lot of you are international, traveling to various parts of the world. Is there a differentiation between Asia, Europe, and the US in what aspects of meta that each global region is paying more attention to or not?
I don't know.
I mean,
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
no, I mean, obviously, I'm based in Southeast Asia, like Warren. I think actually, at a fundamental level, even just the term metaverse, okay, is so Tencent, the tech giant in China, isn't calling it the metaverse. They're calling it hyper digital reality. Okay, so even just the terminology itself is very nascent. Will we still be calling it the metaverse in 5-10 years time? Or will hyper digital reality or will there be so even the vernacular, I think, is, we can't predict yet where we are in this journey. So I think that to me is really interesting, and so that would be my point in terms of just different parts of the world calling it different things. That's also just fundamentally just interesting.
Any other thoughts? No, good.
I think that's super cool about the jargon, the de-jargonizing,
Yeah.
of the terms. I haven't seen that in Europe yet. I think that's really, really cool and more advanced even maybe than the European region or even the US region that's still calling it, like you say, we'll be calling it Web3. It's just another layer of the internet, right? We don't call the Web2, we don't call it Web2. So I think that's an interesting point.
So
but I
thank
think
you all.
just
No,
one more
go ahead.
point. Yeah. So I think one thing that is very different in Europe is the fact that they're a lot more focused on environmental impact and sustainable economies and technologies, as compared to Asia, which is mostly about growth and monetization. So these are very, very polarizing, I think. But I think with Web3, there's a potentiality of combining the two. So we just have to make sure that we're individually aware of the carbon footprint we're leaving behind with every step we take. So we just have to take the advantage of new technologies to make that happen.
I think that's a really good point. Be careful of the footprints, whether it's real, digital, or meta, or hyper. But so during this last day today, there's an internal running joke on the chat channel of this session, which is unpacked. Every time someone says unpacked, we have to put $5 in a jar. I think we made $1 million today. But in closing this session today, I think we unpacked a lot. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining us, Evie, Megan, Warren, Carrie. Thank you for sharing your knowledge, your thoughts, and your expertise in this field.